Welcome to Secure Money Mindset, the ultimate podcast for financial planning tips and strategies. Our episodes are designed to be concise and to the point, lasting no more than 30 minutes. Each episode features seasoned advisors from Secure Planning Group or an outside financial specialist discussing crucial issues and providing actions to consider when addressing your top financial concerns. We value honesty and transparency, meaning we present both the good and the bad news in a clear and concise manner. Our goal is to provide you with reliable insights and practical guidance. Be sure to hit the follow button to stay up to date with our latest episodes. For more information, please visit our website at securepg.net. Let's dive into this week's episode of Secure Money Mindset.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Secure Money Mindset podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lenge, and with me today I have Chris Shank from our team here, and we're looking to review the topic of trust planning with you today. So without getting too far, I just wanted to kind of cue things up for Chris with the first question and kind of maybe just explaining the basics of trust planning.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mike. So I think a really common misconception about trusts is that they are this mysterious, opaque thing that is only meant for the very wealthy, and it's meant to hide money or shelter money in far-off places that can never be accessed. And really, that's a pretty common misconception. Trusts serve a variety of purposes for a large variety of people, and they can be a good solution for people that have immense wealth and people that have very little wealth.
Maybe just to kind of set the stage for the conversation, what are some of the basic considerations or maybe the different types of trusts?
Sure. So there's really three main types of trusts. And then from there, you can obviously have a multitude of different things those trusts can include. But the three major types are revocable trusts, irrevocable trusts, and special needs trusts. And so revocable trusts are exactly that. They can be revoked. Really what that means is that if you put something into the trust, you can take it back out. Very often, the person that puts the money into money or property into the trust has the ability to take it back out. Irrevocable trusts are exactly as they sound. It can't be undone. Once you put something into an irrevocable trust, you are giving up control of it. And really, you no longer have control over those assets. That control is in the hands of a trustee or a third party. The last one is special needs trusts. And again, exactly as it sounds, those are created to help special needs individuals, whether they be physical or mental incapacities, really because they are not allowed to own assets. And when receiving government benefits, they're not allowed to have assets in their name. So a special needs trust is a great way for them to have assets to provide them for the things we all enjoy in day-to-day life without impacting their ability to get government benefits.
Okay, I think that that last piece is kind of it's more into the minute details, but it's why it's important to work with professionals. It's some of the benefits of trust planning, and to your initial point of like folks want to believe that trust planning is only for the ultra wealthy. There's a lot of different purposes for trust planning. Can you maybe kind of talk through kind of the benefits of incorporating trusts into the financial plan?
Sure. So there's a number of benefits to incorporating trusts in your financial plan. They can be simple in nature and complex in nature. So when you place assets into a trust, that trust avoids what is called the probate process, which is really when if you were to pass away, your assets being essentially probated through the court before they are distributed to your heirs or beneficiaries. A really common misconception is that if you have a will, your assets are not subjected to probate. They still are. So very often we see trusts accompanying wills in the estate planning process to really help make that an efficient and smooth process. Other reasons that people would utilize trusts that are very common is estate reduction or tax avoidance. So if you have someone that is very high net worth, there are these federally imposed and state imposed limits where if you were to pass away with over a certain level of wealth, there's some pretty hefty taxes that you could face. So very often people can irrevocably gift assets or property out of their estate to get themselves below that tax threshold. And so that is often a very common technique as well.
Okay. With I guess again, those are some of the detailed points to touch on. When you're going back to kind of the basics, like and establishing the trust or building the trust language, kind of, do you mind speaking to that process a little bit? Like who's involved and what's needed?
Absolutely. So it's not uncommon when you're talking about creating a trust or forming a trust that you're working with a team of professionals to do that. So obviously we are not attorneys. We do not draft trusts. We help with and work with your attorneys to determine what type of trust would be most suitable for you and what important pieces of language are needed to be included in that trust. So very often it is going to include an attorney for the physical drafting of the documents. It's also very often going to involve your CPA or your tax advisor, because obviously if we are gifting assets or we moving assets or investments around, there could be important tax implications that we need to be prepared to handle. And again, that tax advice is going to have to come from a qualified tax advisor or CPA.
Yeah, and that's when we're talking through a lot of these different topics on the podcast, it's very important to highlight why working with a team of financial advisors that have these trusted contacts in each space, how that benefits you as the client. But it also, like, one thing we always regurgitate is like it puts us on the same side of the table as you, the client. Can you maybe just talk through some of the different um, road, like speed bumps you could run into and things like that? Like what things to avoid when you're like talking through these topics with clients?
Sure. I personally, I think the biggest potential pitfall or thing you really need to be careful about when you're forming a trust, and really in particular an irrevocable trust, is having considerations for who is the trustee that you're picking. It's not uncommon for us to see, and we have multiple examples of clients that they had a deceased family member or a spouse that picked a trustee that was maybe their attorney or their CPA, and they haven't updated it for 30 years. And that CPA or attorney has not been practicing for 15 or 20 years. They're not current on tax law or estate law. They're really just there and collecting their fee and not really offering proactive advice. So I would say one of the biggest things, or one of the most important things, is really making sure that you're doing a really good job selecting that trustee, whether that be an individual or a corporate trustee,
right.
and making sure that not only are they the right person now, but you have contingencies for are they the right person or entity in the future.
Yeah, and that's another thing that comes up pretty often is when we're working with clients, newer clients that already have some of these things established, is helping them understand how it's structured. When's the last time we revisited those things? Are all the folks who are in those different roles or positions, is it still appropriate?
Mm-hmm.
Those are all the things that come up. And again, when you're going through it, like when you're starting to establish the trust and things like that, it's the importance of having those conversations up front.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, to that point of picking the proper trustee and making sure all the language is correct. And I think another pitfall too is sometimes when you have blended families, there can often be much more complex situations when you're talking about blended families with kids from previous marriages, and just making sure that beneficiary arrangements inside the trust language are all accurate, because it's not uncommon for one spouse to contribute more property or to have a preference for their biological children over the children of the other parent. So it's important to revisit these things. Trusts can be amended just like wills. So it's important to always make sure that the language in those trusts is relevant to the situation today. just because, again, this is something we always warn our clients about, is that you don't want to have legal documents or beneficiary arrangements with outdated information.
Cool. So no, that's super helpful. In terms of maybe providing a few real life examples where you found that we've added value for clients through trust planning.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to give you a couple basic ideas of simple things that are maybe often overlooked and are really common scenarios. I think one of the most common things we come across is that maybe elder parents that have a vacation home, and whether that vacation home be located in this state or another state, how it can be a really simple but valuable thing to place that home inside of a trust. That way that, if mom or dad were to pass away, that house is inside of a trust, and then you don't have to open up probate in another state to settle the estate. So if you think probate is a headache in your own state, try doing it in another state as well. So trust can be a great way that if you have assets in multiple states, you don't have to all of a sudden probate a will in 5 or 6 different states. Right. Some other really just common things that we come across very often are people utilizing life insurance inside of trusts. I would say that's probably one of the most commonly owned assets by trusts is life insurance, because it's a really simple and efficient way to generate really very tax advantaged wealth for the next generation. Right. And it's generally done at a very low cost.
That's interesting. And again, these are the types of things where it's not the first thing that comes to mind for most people when they hear trust planning. They don't think about insurance being a piece of that. So then I think that's super helpful as well. Is there anything that you think we didn't necessarily get to cover, or is there any type of kind of summary talking points that you think would be helpful to share?
Yeah, I think it's just, I think proper trust planning and proper financial planning, it always involves a team. We are not equipped to be all things to all people. And so it's very common that we work with clients' existing advisors, whether they be tax or legal. And if clients express to us that they're not fully confident in their existing team that they have in place, then we obviously are there and ready to help refer them to qualified individuals, that can obviously help fill that gap for them.
That's great. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk through it with us, and we hope you guys found this to be helpful. So if you have any questions, by all means, feel free to reach out to us directly, and we hope you'll join us on the next one.
Thanks, guys.